Hey guys, it is Nick here with our Nick's Topics Walking Dead What If topic video for today. And today, we got an interesting one about bringing a certain group that really didn't amount to too much in the original Walking Dead Season 1 and never really expanded. What if the Vatos gang took Beth instead of the hospital gang? Now, in order for this idea to play out to what we want it to, we need to analyze a few things first. And by a few, I mean like a good few. So, let's get into some analyzation, then we'll get into the what if itself. Okay, first, if you guys have seen like on YouTube and stuff, or if you go in like true depth with The Walking Dead, you would know that in a deleted scene, well, first off, we never got a confirmation of the Vatos gang's death, but there is a deleted scene in the original Walking Dead that shows the Vatos gang all dead, like they were invaded. Now, since there wasn't too many people in Atlanta, if any, really, we could probably analyze that Dawn and the hospital gang probably went in and killed them all because they tried to fight or something to that nature. Dawn and the hospital gang would have to be the only ones who would have went and killed the Vatos gang because there was no one else there. It would be impossible for anyone else to be there. So, that's why we even if the deleted scene was never shown in the original show, we can analyze that that's probably what happened even if it wasn't shown, because you have to think in depth that they are the only people in Atlanta at that time. Rick's group was gone. They were Herschel's farm looking for Sophia, yada yada yada. So, if we wanted to make a what if regarding the Vatos gang instead of Dawn and the hospital gang taking Beth, we would have to assume that Dawn and the hospital gang would be killed by the Vatos gang. And basically, after Rick threatening them and everything else, the Vatos gang, especially the leader, I forget his true name, but let's just say they take a darker turn. Sort of like Shane, and basically they leave, they give them guns, but they don't use them to, like, they're thankful, sure, but later, they're all thinking a way darker thing in mind. Basically promising to themselves that if Rick or some of his group ever showed up again, they would kill them. And unfortunately, Beth would be taken by them as a true vantage point to get Rick and his group who are in Season 5 mentality at Gabriel's church. And soon, Daryl's off on his own, the Claimer things happen, yada yada yada. The stuff with Terminus goes down per usual, and like I said, they all end up at Gabriel's church. Once Daryl comes to the group, he tells them about Beth being taken, and a sign that it's a familiar group. Because I feel that if the Vatos gang really wanted to take revenge on Rick's group, taking someone hostage, it would definitely leave a sign as to where to find them and, like, surrender their guns, stuff like that. Sort of like Negan, something to that nature, you know? First, before any of that happens, the cannibals, remember, Gareth and a few others are still alive. They would be on their tail, but eventually, on their way to Atlanta, I still think that Rick and the group would eventually figure out that they're onto them, and they would ultimately be killed in the end. Now, because the group is going farther into Atlanta to rescue Beth and everything else, just like before, there is a problem. Eugene, Abraham, and Rosita do not come along like they did in the original until, Beth died. And that's when everybody showed up. But they do not come along, and because Beth is there and Rick and the group say that it's a dangerous group that they met in the past, I feel like Maggie and Glenn would be with Rick this time. Now, some could argue because no one knew about the hospital group, but because of the Vatos gang, Maggie and her family and such, they didn't know about the Vatos gang. But Rick, Glenn, and Daryl knew about them from the past. They thought they had turned over a new leaf and that they would be on their own, but after hearing signs that they kidnapped Beth, Season 5 mentality, Rick and everyone in the group, they are ready for an unrelenting, bloody fight. Now, for people who want to argue, the Vatos gang, for people who want to argue, as much as Rick and everyone else was in Season 5 mentality, and much tougher against the Vatos gang than they were past, many could argue that they took on the darker persona, but be that as it may, I still feel like this would be something. But unfortunately, I still think that Beth would die here regardless, being held as a hostage and everything. Help her for the hospital, this time as an actual hostage. And what makes it worse is if the Vatos gang did take on a darker persona, I don't think they would spare Beth, even if Rick and the group came to them. And for a fight and everything, I think they would kill I think they would kill Beth just to spite Rick. And then, of course, Daryl, Rick, and everybody would just load on him. And with the mentality of everyone in the group, this would be no contest. Unfortunately, Abraham, Eugene, and Rosita, they would most likely get themselves killed. Leaving the group 3 members shorter than in the original story. By the time they reach Alexandria, they do find whatever food the Vatos gang has in their base there, so they are way less starving and thirsty than in the original story. It's just Abraham, Eugene, and Rosita aren't part of the story anymore. On one hand, this could mean the end for Rick and his group, but seeing that Rick failed to destroy a group that could possibly pose a threat and seeing how they just killed Beth like that, I feel like that would actually make the group even stronger, especially Maggie and Glenn and Daryl. So that could work towards them to still survive, through all of the future fights and stuff. But, yeah, guys, that is pretty much where the story ends. I hope you guys enjoyed this take on giving the Vatos gang a little bit more retribution than they got in the original. I definitely feel like even Randall's group deserved more, showings. But I hope you guys enjoyed this take. Nothing really differentiates from the original story other than no hospital gang and no Abraham, Rosita, or Eugene. But that's where we leave things. So what do you guys think? Do you think events could have gone down this way? What do you think could have happened had the Vatos gang took Beth instead of Dawn and the hospital gang? Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.